I had a fear that I think is common with many people that grow up in Christian homes. I was afraid now that I wanted God's will, but I wouldn't find it. I looked at it kind of like a needle in a haystack. The Lord led me to Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, which has become my life's verse. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, lean not to thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. And it was that last phrase, and he shall direct your path. And what I basically took from that is if I wanted to do God's will, I couldn't miss it. And so I immediately decided to put that to the test in choosing what school to go. And Lord, I want you to do your will, direct my path. Well, I sensed that God had led me to go to Indiana, and so I stood strong with that. Well, I'll never forget when the time came for me to leave for Indiana. I had 3 big requests because I didn't know one person at Indiana University. And I prayed that God would lead me to at least one Christian, and that if Campus Crusade was on that campus, he would lead me to them. And whoever my roommate was, that I would be able to lead my roommate to the Lord. So I'll never forget the day I arrived on campus. I arrived on a Saturday, and as I walked into my dorm, my next door neighbor was arriving. And his mother took a look at me and said, "We know you. We've been looking for your address all winter because you were in our church and you said you were coming to Indiana, and we were looking for you because we wanted our son to be your roommate." Well, he was next door, and of 11 dorms on campus, he was on my dorm. Of the 11 floors in my dorm, he was on my floor, and of the 50 rooms on my floor, he was next door. And so there was my first answered prayer, because I was praying that there would be at least one Christian friend. Well, that wasn't all. I learned that afternoon that he was one of 10 students who were planning to start the movement of Campus Crusade at Indiana University that year. And so from the beginning, I was able to be a part of this group. And that wasn't all. I didn't know this about my roommate, but he observed what had happened between my next door friend, whose name was Rick and I. And he sat me down the first week that we were together and said, "Darrel, what is it you have in common?" And I couldn't escape sharing my faith with him that first week. Well, in December of that year, he turned to me and said, "Darrel, I want you to know I prayed to receive Christ tonight." And so all of that happened and was really a confirmation. And I will never forget how strongly I had to come back to this basic principle of saying, "God, thank you that you've promised to direct my path." That the principle that I had taken from Proverbs, "In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path," is really the same principle as the Spirit-filled life, which is that each morning I say to the Lord, or each day, or moment by moment, "Father, I want to do your will." That is the same as saying, "Holy Spirit, take control of my life." That God knows us, he created us, and he knows what is best for us. And I would say, as I look to other people and with these same principles that I've applied in my life, God will direct their path to where they can best use those gifts and abilities for his glory. I've certainly found that true in my life, that if I wanted to do God's will, I couldn't miss it.